Hi, Padma.
Hey Taylor, how's it going?
Going pretty well.
Great, great content by Kerry and you. I'm sure everyone from the audience is now keen to know how to build these add-ons, which we'll be covering in this session.
Awesome.
And that's my screen, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So we are here to talk a little bit about the developer tools. Taylor, please jump in. I know that we've been sort of working on these slides together. There are a new bunch of new announcements that we have, and then we have some really cool demos to show and share. We will quickly. The agenda is going to be we're going to go over some platform fundamentals, talk a little bit about what is Code Playground, what are the new updates coming to the playground, and then we'll get into the more serious developer environment, which is your local setup. And then we'll talk about MCP Server. Yes, Chris was very sharp in catching your demo earlier, Taylor, which read MCP demo, and he said, "What does that stand for?" So that's true.
Oops.
We are we are going to talk about MCP Server for the add-on APIs, and then we'll just chat a little bit more about AI tools and tips for working with AI. I'm going to drive the slide, but Taylor, go ahead.
All right. Yes. So for those of you, for everyone, there's certain kind of fundamentals around the way that add-ons are built about the architecture that are really helpful to understand when you're building with them. And so when you're using Express and you're interacting with an add-on, it's actually an entire kind of small web app that's bundled and then served in a sandbox on the front end of served in a sandbox on Express. So you have the add-on UI, which is the panel that you're interacting with the add-on, and then you have the Express document, the place that you're creating something. And because of how the architecture because of how this system works, the only way for a user to interact with the document through your add-on is through that user interface. So you need to use a communication API and create these proxy layers between them so that you can send information and data back and forth so that you're able to interact with the Express's document API from inside your add-on UI. We go to okay, cool. And so when you're working on your add-on projects, you'll have like front-end web technology powering the UI part of your add-on, and so that can be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That can be your preferred framework, so React, Angular, and then in the context of the Express document, you have the document sandbox. So that is where you're interacting with the Express document API. So you'll have kind of JavaScript written in both places, but where the interaction is happening with the Express document and where the interaction is happening with the user there's kind of very strict boundaries around that. So I know for me, when I was learning about the platform and kind of taking some of my early first steps, I struggled because I struggled with it being familiar in terms of like being a web environment and like I want to use these different browser APIs, but add-ons are very sandboxed, so you don't necessarily have access to the same tools. And a lot of the same kind of paradigms around how things work in that environment aren't necessarily the same there. But it makes a lot of sense in the context of Express, where there's a very kind of structured set of creative tools and environment. So yeah, cool. Other thing I wanted to mention here is if you are sorry. I wanted to let everyone know that we have excellent documentation that has been revamped relatively recently. So as you are learning about Express, regardless of what tools you are building, be sure to come to our documentation. there really is no substitute for getting to kind of see and navigate what's there. We have some really great folks putting in a lot of effort into the structure and the information and how you kind of navigate that information. So I recommend the documentation, taking a look at the developer journey, the Hello World guide, and kind of finding a path that makes sense to you. All right. Do you cool? Do you want to take this one, Padma?
Yeah, sure. So what you see here, I mean, you just wanted to like give a very brief walkthrough of what an add-on really typically consists of. So the project structure that you're seeing on the left-hand side is generally what when you have an add-on, when you're building an add-on, these are the folders and the project structure that you're seeing. So primarily, there are like two main things which Taylor has just been explaining: your add-on UI and the logic that goes into actually interacting or adding stuff to your Express document. So everything which is Express document related kind of sits inside the sandbox code.js file, and then everything that you want to design for your add-on, and then also build like business logic, which is inside your UI side of the house, that all goes inside the UI folder. So this just like we're just trying to like explain to you very basics of how you can think about add-on when you start like interacting with these tools. And then in the next slide, here is what we are also talking about, the same project structure, which is simplified for you within the code playground. So code playground gives you dedicated tabs to do the same job. But in the backend, you can think of it to be like following the same project structure that you would see in your local environment. So the code playground, recently, we'll see a cool demo from Prasanta in a bit. But it basically lets you either work in an add-on mode, which has the UI, and it lets you interact with the Express document through the communication API. It has the whole shebang. But if you only want to update your Express document and you're only working on some logic, you're experimenting something which primarily needs to only talk to the document directly, you can do that with script mode. So we'll cover that in a bit. But for those of you who haven't yet explored Code Playground, I'll just like drop in a quick sentence over there to explain what it is. So it is an in-app lightweight developer tool that offers the quickest way to get started and experiment with Express add-on APIs. What I mean by in-app is that this is built inside of Express, which means that you do not need any local setup. You do not need anything to be installed in your local environment or in your laptop. All you can do is just go into the web link, and in the next demo, we'll show how to enable it. And then you can just get started by building a simple Hello World add-on within seconds. So over to you, Taylor. I think we can play the demo.
Hello everyone, I will give you a brief overview of a useful tool for Adobe Express add-on development, the Code Playground. The Code Playground is a browser-based environment built to help you prototype, experiment, and better understand the add-ons API without needing you to spin up a local dev environment. This makes it especially helpful for testing idea quickly and exploring new APIs. To access the Code Playground, click your add-ons and then click Code Playground. Code Playground has 4 tabs: HTML, CSS, iframe.js, and document.js. Iframe.js is the code that runs on the UI part. So let's suppose we want to make these changes, make this button add 2 rectangle at once. Let's modify the JavaScript code as well. And we click run code. As you can see, it gives you update instantly. If we click this around, it created 2 rectangles. There is an additional option that we might also want to take a look at, that is the script tab. With the script tab, you get direct access to the document sandbox API. So if you are working primarily with like a document sandbox API, you can quickly come here and prototype and debug it easily. So let's suppose I will make a green rectangle. I run the code, and as you can see, it directly executes the code. There is no need for like the document panel. Code Playground is not a replacement for your local development workflow. Think of it as a complementary tool. It's a safe space to prototype logic, understand the data flow, and test your element before you move to your full implementation. Thank you for listening.
Awesome. Where speakers disappeared. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Prasanta. Really appreciate. Just the developer community around Express add-ons in general is really great. And yeah, I think one of the best parts about working here for sure.
Yeah, and like they've been instrumental in terms of like trying out new features and providing us feedback. And the next set of features are also as a product of that, right? Like we've been asking for what would you like to see? How can we simplify this journey for you guys? And how can you get started quickly by building add-ons with the least amount of roadblocks for you guys? And this is all based on your feedback. So I'm like super thankful to the developer community for that. And I'll also walk you through the next set of features which are in the pipeline. So the playground is a good starting point. As I said, it can take you. You can get started within minutes. It can take you from browser itself. You can have experiments. You can do explore new APIs, etc. But when you say you want to build an add-on which requires maybe some tooling, it requires some packages to bundle your add-ons together, etc. Then you would want the play you won't want your add-on to be built in a local setup. So there will be a feature coming out soon that will help you export the experiment that you were doing in Playground and convert that into a CLI compatible add-on, so that you can continue your journey in your local setup. The next thing we are working on is also deep linking. What we have realized is you guys hate tab switching and wouldn't like to keep switching between code samples in the documentation and in the Playground. So we are trying to bridge that gap. You can jump from docs to the Playground instantly with a click. So that's also being in the works. And then today, the way the session or the work that is persisted in Playground is through local storage, but we are changing that. We are elevating it to cloud persistence so that your code is always with you in any device and at any time. The other two things that you're seeing in the bottom are again some of the key points that have come up a lot in the feedback. We want to simplify the console logs for you guys. So you will be seeing more refinement over there. And then we are also working on a pop-out mode for the playground, just so that you can detach and expand your playground into a new window, so that you can continue with your focused work. All right, Taylor, over to you again. We will talk a little bit about what would it take to take your playground experiment into your local setup.
Yep. Earlier we had some of the visualizations around how this project structure kind of maps to the different elements inside of an Express add-on, and this is a this is a structure that you will see fairly often when you're using the CLI to create scaffolding for a new project, or if you are using an existing sample that you're cloning and then trying to run locally. It's pretty common to kind of be split up this way. And as you're using the code playground, as you're building your add-on, you will have your local environment with a project somewhat similar to this, and you'll typically use the code playground for kind of prototyping, like light and easy testing, and then as you identify kind of small pieces of logic that you need, then move them over into your local environment where you're actually building your add-on. And I wanted to give a shout out to the sample repo as well. There are a number of completed samples in there that you can just clone and then run and then play with inside of the browser in the add-on testing environment. And there's ones that are in the marketplace. There's ones that have been contributed by the community. So they're touching a pretty broad range of features and using a broad range of technology. So anytime that you are kind of need to push in the right direction, or you want to see maybe how someone else did something, it's a great place to look and a great resource to know about. I know for me, when I was learning, like being able to see something kind of completed earlier on is always helpful. So I really appreciated having that available.
All right, so MCP. Yes, we are working on an add-on MCP. What it's going to do is going to plug into your LLM's workflow. there would be a poll put up where we want to know what kind of AI tools that you guys are using, how are you using it, whether you have started to use it or not, or what holds you back. But this is going to try and bring context-aware access to the documentation to your LLM and in the tool that you are using it in. So whether you're building or debugging or exploring APIs, it just brings structured and searchable documents into your environment so that you don't have to tab switch and guess the work. How MCP works is pretty straightforward. I'm pretty sure everyone here has heard about it and has definitely watched some videos on it. But just to simplify it, you guys you post a query, it goes to the MCP client, which calls the MCP server. In our case, MCP server is primarily focused on bringing context-aware documentation to you. So it gives back that context to the MCP client, which is when, and then whichever is the choice of your LLM kind of generates a response with that context, and then sends either generates code for you or provides the next steps that you can use for your add-on development. Taylor, would you like to add anything here?
Not at the moment. I think I think that just diagrams around MCP architectures in general are they'll always look different depending on what folks are doing on their MCP server. I think
right. Yeah, this is like an oversimplified way. We wanted to put out like the simplest way of explaining what our MCP server is doing. And as I said, that it's basically powering context-aware documentation. So
I think that's the important part, is just it's all feeding context into your add-on.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm ready.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I didn't realize it will start playing the moment I switch to the next slide. So
cool.
Over to you.
Yeah. So have a little demo using the MCP using the MCP server. So simple tasks tend to work really well when you're interacting when you're trying to build an Express add-on with an AI tool. So here I'm adding a shuffle button, relatively straightforward, easy to do, worked very well out of the box. So click button, get nice shiny shapes, and hooray, feel good about building with AI. However, we go. Cool. Yes. So where it starts to get tricky is when things start to get more complex. So because add-ons have that kind of dual context architecture, it can really throw off your development at any stage that you run into it. So here you'll see that I just took the error straight out of the code that I got that I got from my add-on, and I passed it directly back into Cursor, and you can see the MCP server is calling for the relevant documentation, and it is yes. But what's really neat here is here we didn't just get the answer to the problem that we had. We actually got more context about the architecture and about that environment that is helpful for the rest of the add-on development as well. So that was one of the things that I noticed about working with it this way. Is it just made a huge difference around debugging and just in general, very, very helpful for that reason. And so I've got one more coming up here, which is where it starts to get a lot more powerful. So here was when I was asking it to create all of the possible styling options for all of the different objects that I had in that demo add-on I showed a little bit ago. And so first thing it did is it grabbed the type definitions. Once that came back and it could see all of these different objects with these different structures, then it started querying the code base for all of those. So here it's going one by one through every single one to look and see what documentation it has in here. So by the time that this code actually, starts generating code, I have all of the exact context that I need for the task that I asked it to do. So this was a really cool example of this system being able to give you a lot more in terms of research and in terms of being able to use these tools to build more quickly. It would have taken me a very long time to go and look at each of those objects and figure out how to interact with them individually, and then kind of bringing it back one by one. But in this case, I'm able to just pull that context into where I'm building. And so here is some of the code that it generated. That's probably too small to see because it's too small for me. But I think that's there's a really big difference between like documentation lookup and then having more comprehension about the architecture itself. And so I think that was once I became cognizant of that, I was able to use the tool a bit more effectively than I was in the past. Cool. And yeah, so here it is. Yeah, adding those styling features on and sharing and storing them as metadata. Cool.
All right. Okay, off to the next topic. Taylor, take it away.
Yep. So I just had some general tips on building on building an add-on using AI tools. One is I had better results when I would engage with it, ask it to create a plan, explore some resources first, and then we would build. And I had much better success with that, especially when I was adding larger features versus asking it to do kind of one-off tasks and getting stuck. Go ahead and next slide. Brennan, yeah. Yeah, so I think some of the other things that I noticed is you actually want to in a lot of cases, like less is more. So less restrictive rules, being less specific in what you're asking it to do in certain contexts. And the reason is that the more kind of importance that it's placing on what you're asking it to do, the more that it will forget other things like coding best practices. So when I was doing like more heavy-handed, like never do this, always do this, I would see a lot of failure points that that I would not expect to otherwise see. And so I think when you're building with AI, be sure to look around and see what different tools are available to you. There's different models, there's different MCPs, there's a lot of different ways of managing that. So find ones that resonate with you. And then my other tip is just don't get stuck in failure loops. If you are arguing with the AI and it's just throwing bug after bug, it's often much faster to start over than it is to try and course correct when it doesn't understand what you want it to do. Awesome.
All right. I hope we are within time. But I would love to see what people think about AI tools. As I said, there would be a couple of polls out there. Please do fill out your opinion. And then please try and build your first add-on. So jump into the playground, explore our docs. The QR code takes you to the first Hello World tutorial that you can find on our docs. And it's a great starting guide. Happy coding.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Padma.
Thank you so much.
Developers Live. Developers Live. Developers Live.